So I'm very pleased to invite, I have to admit I'm biased, they're good friends of mine, but I'm delighted to see Joan and Xiǎoxián in England, and we'd like to ask you a few questions about yourselves and your folding. So please come and sit here. So, fairly simple questions. If you don't understand the question, just kind of look. What? So, Joan, can you tell me how you first started with paper folding?
Well, I was folded inside myself, inside in the stomach of my mother. And when I was born, I was unfolded. Then I saw my hand, I saw it exists, the folds, and thanks the folds I can move the hand. Then I was lucky because I was living the first years of my life, the 8 years, by my grandfather, and he was teacher, school teacher, and he was folder. And he never teach me, but he fold something, and so grow in me the wish to fold. I discovered it's important not to learn to fold, important is to have the wish. And through the wish, I was dependent, folding dependent, and I remain folding dependent. It was how I start. And I asked to my grandfather, no, he asked me, what you want I fold? Don't say, come here, I fold a bird for you. No. They say, what you want. Then the most important was not only the wish, but the knowledge, the choose what I want. I am free, I am a free person, and I have to choose what I desire, what I want. And today, many people that have the liberty to choose, they don't know what they choose. And you probably have the experience that somebody come and say, fold something for me, and you ask, what? Doesn't matter, something, teach me something, but doesn't matter. No, it's important to know what, because we fold not for nothing, we fold for something, and that's the key element that my grandfather transmit to me, to know why we fold. The technique, and it's very interesting, but it's second capital. And it was my start with the folding. I said, please fold me a train. My grandfather, of course, didn't know how to make a train. Then he took a piece of paper, like that. He say, well, we have the rail. How we put the train? You have another paper?
Sorry.
This is questions.
No, you have the questions.
Paper quiz.
So, we have the rail, and then my grandfather said, well, now we make the train. We put one train here. We have one wagon. He was not a folder. He knew some models, but not an expert. But he created at the moment with the minimal folds something that it was for me possible to recognize the rail and the train. Something impossible for many of us. We don't know how to fold the train. It's very complicated. It exists some trains, but we don't know. And it was my beginning. Okay, stop.
So, how did you start to enjoy paper folding?
I think there are two periods. One is when I was a child, and I learned some simple models, and these models are from the book and outside the book. outside the book, the family member or some friends, they know some traditional models. And one day my grandfather bought a simple book for children paper folding. And on this book, the paper folding is drawn by diagram, it is in system. So I can read the book by myself. And also my grandfather teach me paper folding with the book. And I can choose which model I like. When my grandfather is not at home, I can read the book by myself, and I was very interested in the diagrams. But later, when the study became busy, I didn't fold too much. But some years ago, I want to do something, and I remember paper folding. And I searched on internet, and I found a modern, complicated paper folding books. And I found these models are totally different from what I folded when I was a child. It's too complicated and very beautiful. And then I started to look for the different models and fold by myself.
Thank you. Joan, you've founded a group called PADORAE, which is short for Paper Folding Documentation and Research. Can you tell us a little bit about it and why you think it's important?
What? Well, I don't know you, but when I start seriously to fold, I feel I need to learn more, and I can learn from the last Japanese author next year, but I can learn from the folders that existed before me in the last century, in the last 2 centuries, in the last 3 centuries, because we don't have the objects what they folded, but we have the documents that explain the techniques and why they do that, which material they use. We have an incredible quantity of Yoshizawa is no more here through us, no? But we have the books of Yoshizawa, and we can read that and understand what he made during his life. No? And before Yoshizawa, it existed an incredible quantity of folders, unknown folders, anonymous folders, that which we can learn a lot, really a lot, from many perspectives. No? And if you won't be architect, no? You go to the university and you study architecture. If you want to clean the road, you go some office, public office, and you receive something to clean the road. But if you want to be folder, there doesn't exist a place to learn to be folder. You know? And then I decided to collect these old documents, to start 20 years ago, old documents to learn myself. And without know, I create an archive library that today is more or less 5,500 documents in 30 language, no? Different language. Mostly old documents, not new documents. Some new documents, but mostly old. And that it was my formation, no? And then I decide this art from library or archive must be useful for other people, because it's very useful for me. Then I decide to use this information to create, for example, projects like the didactic, how to transmit the folding to other persons. These books, these documents mostly explain that, how to transmit, how they explain folding instructions without diagrams, only with words. Without the Yoshizawa Ranlet system. It was very complicated, and they found very interesting solutions. And I think that's the most important thing. Why I don't want to create an archive on a library, but it was the result of my own need.
Yes. Can you explain a little bit about what inspires you to create a model, and are all your models complicated, or do you do simple ones as well?
At first, I was surprised by the beautiful, complicated model. So at that time, my goal is to invent a complicated model, and I tried that. And but later, I find they are not only complicated models, they are simple models, but simple but beautiful models. So now I try both.
Okay, thank you. Joan, you've over 10 years ago you founded a group called Folding Didactics. I wonder if you could explain a little bit about why you feel the origami conventions in Germany didn't provide what you wanted and you felt the need to create an alternative convention.
Yes. If you look in the constitution of all the origami associations, they say, all, without exception, all say one of the goals of the association is the education, the formation of teachers to teach origami. No? And frequently, no one association make that. No? Then I proposed that in Germany, and they say, sorry, we are a folders association, not a teachers association. Yes, it's in the constitution, but well, then we don't do it because the members of the association don't like it. They won't fall for themselves, no? A little bit. No? Then I decided to organize myself a parallel, no competition with the other. The members are not folders, are educators, no? And they use the folding as for their education. Some ones in the schools, other in the hospitals, other in the prisons, other for therapy. And I made that at the first moment because I observed, with all the respect of the world for all the creators, but that not the greatest creators of origami of the world, they are not necessarily the best origami teachers of the world. And, but I don't want to offend nobody, please. Huh? But that's the reality. Otherwise, people that are folder perhaps, but never create something, they can be extraordinary with a very good talent to teach. No? And not necessarily, we think the creators must be the best diagram drawers, the best teachers, the best. No, they make the creators are not the best folders. Many times, folders that don't create fold better one creation than the creator itself. Not always, but sometimes. Then we saw there are two elements, the education element and the creation element. And so sometimes we put one under the other. No, they are with two different. And for example, in the origami, we think, we spoke at last question, we have the wrong idea that's complicated is good and simple is easy is low worth. And that's not true. Easy and nice, that's very seldom. So seldom as complicated and nice. I don't want to say no one sample. But sometimes they are extremely intricate models, and at the end it remains something. But you look for the beauty, and you don't find that. And then such elements, for example, the napkins. You don't fold good, you can fold napkins, or the second or third class. The second class is the letter fold. Napkins and letter fold that can be very intricate too, and very nice and very ugly too. And then these elements can be conducted much better in the education, where the folding of napkins or the folding of letters can be used for the educational goal. You don't need to fold an impossible model for children. And then it was for me very important to transmit all what I think I know to them. The main reason to transmit it is because when I teach here in Colchester, yesterday, the feeling that I have is that I am the first that learn. The people think they learn from me one model or one technique or something, but every second during the teaching, I have the feeling I receive much more than you. And this when you discover that, then you are education dependent, and you like very much this subject. You appreciate why it's so important. The education is not only in one direction, it's absolute in two directions. The teacher learn, the pupil learn, and both learn. If not, it's no sense. And it's instruction, it's not education. And it was a little bit the idea. Then we create 2006, the first year, folding the didactic convention, only for educators. Many folders from, but mainly is the explained the education ways. And it was excellent. And I saw after that grow in Italy another convention similar. We invited them in Germany, and they make the same. We tried in England, in Sheffield, to start some course for teachers, and it was a success. But we need to continue that. We make in Catalonia, in my country too. Then for the last 4 years, then such convention. And the kind of people that participate in Italy itself, they are 200 participants in the didactic convention, and no one is folder. All are teachers. They need that, but they don't know how. Then they need to buy a bridge through the folders and the educators. The educators can learn a lot of things from the folders, and the folders can learn a lot of things from the educators. And the construction of this bridge is a little bit the meaning of this didactic conference. Yeah, you understood?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I personally feel it's really important, because the standard origami convention for me is about recreation. You're having fun, you're learning models. But there's the whole other side to it, is the ethics of origami and the history and how to teach it. Mick Guy has spoken many times. He runs these classes how not to teach origami. And I'm usually the prime example of how not to teach. But I think we let ourselves down sometimes by not putting the time in to learn how to teach. We love the subject and we know the subject, but as Joan says, it's not the same as teaching it. And these didactic conferences, the emphasis is much more on communication of information and ideas, and they're fantastic. You should go to them if you can.
Can I ask a question?
Later.
Later?
Yes, go on then. Go on then. You are our president.
Sure?
You're entitled to answer it.
No, I'll wait my turn.
You are
okay.
here.
No, I've got mixed feelings about Origami USA. They put out their conventions. They put out ideas for teachers, guidelines for teachers, guidelines for students. And I have to say, I find that pretty off-putting. I mean, if I were a student and I read their list of things, what I should and shouldn't do, I think, oh, I don't think I really want to go to this. It's a bit hard. And I think somehow the job of the teacher and the student is to enjoy, to participate, and it's a dialogue, isn't it? And all this thing, you must never touch the paper of the folder. If you're the teacher, you never touch the student's model. It's a bit hard, I think.
I think some of the rules are harsh, but equally, it's so easy. People come to a convention for the first time, and if the teacher isn't clued up and doesn't find out about people's skills, or whether they have hearing issues, or any of these simple basic things that teachers do for granted, we're likely to have people going away thinking, oh, I can't do origami because that class said simple, but it wasn't. So there's a balance to be struck.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't think it's really on topic, though, sorry.
Not at all. So, Xiǎoxián, we learned yesterday about some of the history of Chinese folding. Can you tell us what's happening with sort of modern creative Chinese folding? I couldn't name a single Chinese creator, and there must be some. Are there people out there that we should sort of research?
For me, I think in the Asian time, perhaps not only China, but the other country, you invent something. I don't mean paper folding. I mean something in daily life. You don't know who did it first. You only know some very famous person. He have that. For example, the paper. China, on our book, we know there is a man called Cai Lun invented the paper. But in fact, I read more about it. It said before this man, it already exists something similar to paper. This man only did some development on making paper. But because he's famous, so we treat him as the first man. And I think as a paper folding, it's similar. If you fold some models, at that time no internet, no one know who created this model. And this model is a nice model, and all people learn how to fold it and continue today. And we collect a lot of books. In our the oldest is about 100 years ago, and during these 100 years, some model repeat and repeat, and in fact, the book, every book have the writer, but we don't know who is the first one to create some new models, because these books are for education. They use it as a material, not for a personal artwork. And at that time, no internet, and it's very difficult to say who creates the model first. But recently, I read some, or there are some information on the internet, and I see someone that the newspaper reports someone especially good at paper folding, and gradually we know some people, and now we are very active on the forum, paper folding forum, and we gradually have the concept that everyone have also right of your own model, and now more Chinese creators have become more active on the internet.
I feel it's, if you look at the game of snooker, maybe 10 years ago there was perhaps one Chinese player, and now every competition you see dozens of young, talented players. And I think origami, it's taken off in Korea, it's taken off in Vietnam, amazing designs come out, and I think China will explode fairly soon, and we'll see some really gifted creators coming out of there.
I think so.
Do we have any questions? We've got 5 minutes maybe. Any questions for our guests?
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just got a question. You said that you didn't know of any schools to go to, like colleges or anything, to learn origami. But I was looking on the internet recently, and I saw there was an origami academy in Jordan, in the Middle East. Does anyone know anything about?
Is this a Paul Jackson enterprise, Paul and Miri?
No, it's in Jordan. So I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm just throwing it out. I just literally found this origami academy. They've got a Facebook page.
Right.
But I couldn't find out much else. I sent them a message on the Facebook page and no one's replied. So I don't know if anyone... I just thought I'd mention it because it exists, the Origami Academy in Jordan.
I think that there are a number of places that are kind of offering educational structured courses. Miri Golan is one. That's a commercial enterprise, and I think the didactics, they make a special effort to exclude nobody for reasons of finance. So if you can't afford a hotel, then you can sleep on the floor of the gym at the school, bring your sleeping bag. And I think this is one of the key things, that sometimes origami conventions can be pricey. Yeah. And if you don't have your own transport and a decent credit card, you struggle to get through. I mean, the co-ed next year is going to cost a small fortune for
people. It's ridiculous, that is. Yeah.
So for me, one of the key features of the didactics is that they aim for people who don't have much money, and I think that's very important.
I'm joining.
Just a quick question, Xiǎoxián. You have a model on display, and it's a tree made from a single piece of paper, and it's how do I describe it? It's flat. You've created a sort of tree silhouette.
Yeah.
It's very different from the rest of your work. What inspired it, and also how did you create it? What's the paper, and did you use wet folding? I just thought it was beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. This model is a recent model. I was inspired by the tessellation, because I see the tessellation, they are very beautiful, and they take photos by the shadow. And for me, I think the tessellation is very good, but I want to do something different because tessellation is very regular. You repeat the same shape, and I think I want to use the shadow to make irregular things.
More organic shape.
Yeah. And so I tried, and at first you must use a very, very transparent paper. At first I use the plastic paper. It's used for making presents for the cover the flower or cover something, and you send it to somebody. The transparent paper, they are very beautiful because they have color. They are green or some color else. But I first fold with a transparent paper, and the problem is it is plastic and it can't fix the shape. I use many creeps but it's okay. But if you want to find some details, it's very hard. So I use another paper, and another paper is my first idea. Before the plastic paper is the kitchen paper. You use the paper for cake, or that's a transparent paper. That's very fine and cheap and big. So I use that to try again the trees. And I think the tree is the simplest to fold. I also think of other patterns, but I need time to make that.
Thank you. It's lovely.
About Chinese creators, I mean, I'm an inveterate surfer and hunter out of new people, interesting designs, and I know that there are already a good number of interesting Chinese folders. But the first name, I think lots of people already know, is Kei Chan.
Yes.
For people in Hong Kong, there's a Hong Kong group, and I think we can call that China, can't we? And then there's another guy whose name, his real name I can't remember or pronounce even if I could. And but he goes by the pen name of Obelisk.
Oh, I know.
He is superb. You need to look for Obelisk. Do you know what his name is?
Chen Xiao.
Anyway, so you remember that. It's really, really fine work.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not sure where he lives. The trouble is that our knowledge in the West of Chinese geography is pretty poor. So geography not easy. But there certainly are some notable creative folders. And of course, the people in Singapore, they have Chinese roots. Even Francis Au, I think his background is Chinese.
Yes.
If you go on Nicholas Terry's site, Origami Shop, he has a couple of books which are free downloads, and they're Chinese New Year, and they are full of fantastic models by Chinese creators that I've never seen anything by elsewhere. And it feels like I don't know if there's a strong community there that's been working away. They've clearly spent the time and they've become talented creators. So maybe it's going to flower soon, and we'll know more about it.
If it's not already flowering.
Yeah, but we'll know more about it. Yeah.
Okay, sadly we're a bit pushed for time because everyone's overslept, so I'm going to call a halt to the questioning here, and we're going to move on to the exhibition review. But I'd like to thank both our guests, Joan, Salas and Xiǎoxián.
Thank you for your interest and passion.
Thank you.